Another beautiful day. Your attention, please.
Hey, welcome again to Back in the Village, the Prisoner podcast. If you're back, it means we must be doing something right. This week we have episode number 11, It's Your Funeral. The only real note this week is we talk about an article on cultural criticism and television, which I'll have linked on the website backinthevillage.com, so be sure to check that out if you're listening on iTunes or anywhere else. But yeah, that's about it, so without further ado, enjoy It's Your Funeral. Good morning. Welcome back to the Deadwood Podcast. My name... Oh, wait, no, this is the Prisoner. Sorry. This is Back in the Village, the Prisoner Podcast, where we're talking about all 17 episodes and probably then some of the 60s British sci-fi classic, The Prisoner. My name is Clay McCormick from EatDeadMeat.com, and with me, as always, is Wes Teasdale from The Penske File.
How are you, Clay?
Not bad.
Good to get back into The Prisoner.
Yeah, I apologize if my voice is a little choked and craggy. We had one nice day this week, and my allergies have already kicked in and have made making my life a living hell.
The leaves are exploding, pollen's in the air, the Red Sox are playing.
Yeah, but if anything, I probably sound a lot cooler on the mic now.
Yes.
Yeah. This is Back in the
Let's
Village.
bring it way down.
Back in the Village with Quiet Storm. This is the
podcast that you can listen to before going to bed. It helps you fall asleep. ASMR and all that stuff.
Where we talk about The Prisoner and the entire discography of Aaron Neville. Anyway, the episode we're talking about today is It's Your Funeral. It's episode number 10?
11, I think. I think it's 11.
Can't even keep track of these things anymore. This is an interesting episode. It's written by Michael Cramoy and directed by Robert Asher, or I should say partially directed by Robert Asher, because we can talk about it later, but apparently he got fired and McGoohan directed the rest of the episode.
Yeah, I read a little bit of trivia.
Yeah.
And this is the episode with the most co-cast member feedback out of any of the shows that I've seen.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people with quotes and opinions about what they thought.
And the number 2 for this episode is named, for most of the episode, is Darren Nesbitt. He, I think he does a pretty good job, even though one of the things that he talks about is how he had no idea what was going on, so he kind of played number 2 as though he had no idea what was going on.
Right.
I don't know if that really comes across. I
thought he's the best number 2 out of the series so far.
Yeah, I think he does a good job.
He plays them. If he is guessing, he certainly nailed this is what all the number 2s are kind of going to act like. Right. So he got that down. He's the only blonde one we've seen so far, which is unique. He's got like platinum blonde hair. I think that was kind of like his look, his thing, because I've seen him in other things, and he has that same. He has that same hair.
Yeah, he's in a movie. I think, unless I'm mixing up my platinum blonde English actors from the 60s, but he's in a movie called Where Eagles Dare with Clint Eastwood and Richard Burton. Awesome movie where he plays a Nazi. So
nice. He's got the look. He's got that look.
I won't go for it, whatever it is. So you may as well stop trying.
We never stop number 6.
Yep. So this episode. This is probably, storyline-wise, one of the more convoluted ones to try and follow. So I actually wanted to just read this description that I found online, which kind of sums it up pretty succinctly, but then we can get into the specifics.
Sure.
So this episode, the village authorities plan to assassinate a retiring number 2 at his leaving ceremony in an operation called Plan Division Q. With the whole plan being brought together by the new number 2, he arranges it so that number 6 will be the one to warn the old number 2, thus discrediting himself. True to form, the elderly number 2 believes number 6 to be one of the jammers and be crying wolf. Yet number 2's seal to be worn at the ceremony has been especially made by village watchmaker and is packed with explosives.
I think you just confused me more about what's
so
going
it's
on.
so let's kind of get into it a bit. So that kind of sums it up, but the thing that I like about this episode is without getting into it too much, I both love and hate this episode.
Yeah. Okay, that's your sentence take on it. My sentence take is, I feel like I should love this episode, and I don't like this episode.
Okay.
So that's kind of the problem.
I think we're probably on the same wavelength, or at least coming at it from similar directions. So number 2 has this plan that is kind of a little bit too clever for its own good, and
I think it's fine, except it has one fatal flaw, which is that it's in a TV show with a main cast member that you must involve in your plot, even though there's no reason to bring 6 into this.
That's the thing. There was no reason to bring 6 into this plot. Now, it's really interesting. Like, I think the reason that the love side of it is because I feel like it could have been a lot better. I think the potential is there to make a really great episode.
Yep.
But they kind of dropped the ball in terms of execution.
Yes. It suffers from the problem the prisoner has, which I always tend to talk about, which it doesn't stress its plot points clearly. Mm-hmm. So in an episode that's totally plot mechanics, you're like
very talky.
You're like, what the hell is going on? Like, no, it's not very clear what the plan is. It's only halfway through the episode that it's revealed that what the true plot is going on.
The episode doesn't start until 20 minutes in.
Yeah.
It doesn't start until we've already watched number 6 run around the village twice.
Meet the watchmaker. All that stuff.
And then watch number 6 play village volleyball basically for 3 minutes straight with no cuts.
Right. And then they have 5 minutes of that trampoline. For how much plot there is in this one, there's a ton of filler. It's probably the most filler episode.
Yes, I know. Well, first of all, it's the shortest episode of the series.
Okay.
And it also, I noticed, has the most reused stock shots.
Oh.
There's a lot of stock shots of Port Marion.
Yeah.
And it seemed like a lot of the exterior stuff was on sets.
Yeah, I guess we should focus on something to start us.
Do you think we should explain the plot more?
Yeah, well, let's explain 2's plot. 2's plot is basically the plot of the episode, so I guess it's good to clarify what's going on with him.
Okay, so one of the things that I like about this episode is that it has the mechanics of the village kind of folding in on itself, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because the main plot, number 2's plot, is to create this this assassination threat geared at. See, this is tough to talk about because they throw so many new things in. So they have Darren Nesbitt is number 2, but we learn halfway through the episode that he is a fill-in number 2.
Yeah, the 2s can apparently just go on vacation.
Well, the thing that I didn't know, I mean, again, we're kind of just falling all over the place here, but are we supposed to assume from this that
all the 2s are on vacation?
No,
they don't get removed?
This guy who comes back halfway through is the real number 2, so all of the other 2s have been interim number 2s?
Oh, I was thinking maybe all the 2s are just on vacation. Well, because the show has implied that anytime a number 2 disappears, it's always sort of he screwed up and he gets replaced, and this guy is just not around for whatever reason.
Yeah, this guy just comes because that's what I mean, because he mentions so they drop this idea in there that there is this number 2 who's coming back from leave.
We'll call him Old Man Number 2 because he's the older one.
Old Man Number 2 is coming back from leave, and he is going to retire.
Yeah.
And so the village and number 1 have this plot where they're not going to just let him retire and leave.
Right.
So they create this assassination plot where during this passing of the torch ceremony, he will be killed by this group of village radicals known as the Jammers, which is another thing we need to talk about because that gets a little bit weird too. But for right now, say he's going to be killed by the Jammers, led by this clockmaker, who has placed a bomb inside this medallion that number 2 wears during the ceremony.
Yep.
And the reason that this plan will work is because these Jammers, their whole thing is they basically go around telling all of the village warders of various plots to escape or et cetera, that are all fake.
They basically do what Six did in the last episode, which is just kind of act suspicious without anything actually going on.
Right.
Just to sort of distract the village and to make them sort of investigate. They have to basically waste time investigating all these claims.
Right, yeah. So they're constantly, on wild goose chases and stuff, but they've kind of reined that in, so they have a list of these Jammers, so they know who not to believe if they come with a plot. So the reason they get Six involved, the reason number 2 gets Six involved, is because he knows if Six tells Old Man 2 about the plot, he will believe Six, because there's no reason that Six would just lie to him about something like this.
Because he's not a jammer.
Right.
So you're convinced?
I'm convinced that those excerpts are fakes.
You mean they've been doctored? For what purpose? Why should we want to convince you that you're not well?
Perhaps it's you they want to convince.
Me? Tomorrow I hand over to my successor. I retire.
Perhaps they're trying to save a pension.
So what he does, young number two, creates a really shoddily put together video package of number 6 telling previous number 2s the same assassination plot. So when old man number 2 comes back and number 6 tells him they're going to kill you, old man number 2 says, "Oh, well, clearly I heard that you've been saying this a lot, so I'm not going to believe you."
Yeah.
But of course,
it's a totally irrelevant plot.
Yeah, because
mechanic.
like
if Six didn't know this, he would not stop the assassination.
Right.
I don't even know why.
Yeah.
It's kind of a, like, for as cool as the mechanics are here, it doesn't really make sense to me why Six would care about saving any of the number 2s. He's sort of attached to this older number 2 for no particular reason.
I think the reason that it works, he doesn't care about number 2. What Six cares about is
fucking with the village, basically.
No, he cares about the innocent people being coerced into this, getting punished.
I guess that's true. Yeah,
because at the beginning of the episode, the way that they kick it off is they have number 2 has this brain hypnotized girl or whatever. I don't know if she's brainwashed or hypnotized or what. Go to number 6's place and try to tell him about this assassination plot.
Yep.
And he gives his usual horribly polite response to any woman who's asking him to do anything. And then she passes out. She faints, and they cut back to number 2, and he says, "Oh, we gave her a drug," because now that she's fainted, she becomes a woman in distress. And there's no way number 6 can pass up a woman in distress.
Right.
So they're playing on this idea that he is...
Despite all evidence to the contrary that he is.
I don't know. I mean, he...
The woman that was brainwashed into loving him, he's like, "Give me that medallion," and then he just leaves her behind.
That's a good point. Yeah, I mean,
it's really just... It's plot for the sake of plot. I don't even know why they had to do that. They're like, when she faints, he'll trust her, and he does. And it doesn't... I'm like... what's the point of this?
It's just so... Like, getting him into the story is so forced.
It is, yeah.
And I feel like they could have done it another way where he could still be involved with the plot but not have it feel so forced if he just kind of stumbled upon it naturally.
Right, and the young number 2 had to sort of work with it. Him stumbling into it causes him to sort of have to involve Six in the plot.
Yeah.
But instead he brings Six into a plot which only serves to undermine what he's trying to do.
Yeah.
There's no upside to getting Six involved in any of this.
I know, because if you know anything about Six, once he realizes you're fucking with him, he's not going to just let that go.
Right, he's not going to let it. Yeah, it's.
Although this number 2 seems to know very little about number 6, or I should say, he picks and chooses what he knows about number 6, because at one point he says, "Oh, number 6 is not going to buy candy. Number 6 never buys candy."
Yeah,
but at the other point, he's like, "Do you want coffee or tea or something?" No, you should know that number 6 only drinks tea with lemon in it. That's all of that's in the file.
Yeah, he's an interim, I guess.
Yeah.
Which flies in the face of his character, because his character is portrayed as like a meticulous planner. He's like obsessed with the intricacies of what's going on and sort of always watching the monitor and like chewing on the frame of his glasses.
Those glasses are awesome, by the way. Like the actual frames are so small, but the parts that go over the ears are gigantic.
He's a styling number 2 with his hair. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's just I don't understand why any of this is really going on, despite the fact that I should, and that's why I say I feel like I should like this one, because this one's so plot heavy, and it's basically a thriller.
Right. It's like a political thriller, assassination thing. And
I feel like I should enjoy that. It's just that big plot hole at the start. And also it's like once you start thinking about it, there's like a ton of little mistakes, like they're going to blow up this guy, right? And the young number 2 is standing right next to him at the ceremony.
No, that's well, and also at the end. So when we get to the end, 6 has gotten to the point with old man number 2 that he believes 6.
Yeah.
And so they go to have the ceremony. Old man number 2 is like sweating because he's got this bomb around his neck.
He was he had a nice look on his face when they put the thing over his head. He kind of like grimaces a little bit as they.
And 6 figures out that excuse me, that this old watchmaker has created a radio device to trigger the bomb, and 6 realizes that he's up in the clock tower, so he can see down to the ceremony and set the bomb off.
Yeah.
So he races up there, struggles to get the thing out of the guy's hand. There's a solid gratuitous ass beating. And they stop the plot, and the nice twist at the end that still doesn't really make a lot of sense is once he gets the trigger, the ceremony proceeds, and old man number 2 passes the bomb necklace to young number 2.
Yep.
And then 6 gives old man number 2 the trigger and says, "This is your passport out of here, because no one's going to stop you, because you could blow up number 2 anytime you wanted." And so he takes off and goes off into the helicopter.
Yep.
But at the last shot is the helicopter midair turning around. So that's a nice little callback.
We're running out of time. Find out what's wrong and be quick about it. Yes. Right away, number 2.
Successful.
Like, the ending is just kind of silly. Like, this guy has a bomb on him. Young number 2 is standing literally right next to him.
Right.
Like, and he has his glasses with a communicator.
Yep.
And he's standing in a group of people just going, "Are you going to kill him now?" It's like, wouldn't everyone next to him just be like, "Who the fuck is this guy talking to? What's
or at
going
the
on?"
very least say, "Come on, we're having a set. Could you shut up?" Jesus. And also, like, once old man number 2, I guess you could kind of read this two ways, but old man number 2 gives his like parting final speech.
Yeah.
He goes on forever.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you could say, well, if he knows he's going to be killed, he's taking the time to say it. But I mean, if that was me, I'd be like, "Thanks everyone. I got to go. I'm going to take the necklace off. See you guys later." Get the fuck out of there.
I was thinking this, I'd just be like, I'd go up to young number 2 and just be like shaking his hand, being like, "Really, you're really good." Like, just never letting go of his hand.
Yeah.
Like, really good job.
The other thing, they don't even. It's such like the mechanism, plot wise, of how this plays out at the end doesn't make sense, or at least it's so clunky, because he's not already wearing the necklace thing. Old man number 2's not. They have to actively put it on him for like a minute and a half, so he can then transfer it up. Like, it would make so much more sense. I mean, you've got a certain amount of tension building. Because he's up there giving this really long-winded speech while 6 is up in the clock tower struggling to get the thing.
Yeah.
But I feel like it would have been so much more effective if old man number 2 gets this pendant thing, and then he has to walk through the like there's a big drawn out time where
anything could happen.
Yeah, and so by the time he gets up to this podium, it's like it's been a long time. This thing could go off, and instead of just cutting back and forth to him sweating and number 6 punching an old man in the face.
And you think number 6 has fallen for it? No, not yet. But he will. He will. And after it's all over, you will be showered with official congratulations. Yes. Well, after he's been here to warn me that an assassination is being plotted, and that I am the intended victim.
What I really like about this episode structurally is I like that it shows the versatility of the concept of the show, in that you can have, it gives you the tools you need, or the open-ended tools you need to plug in a political thriller. It's like we've talked about episodes before where, this is a specific genre episode under the umbrella of The Prisoner. Yep. And it works because you've built this world where you can basically tell any kind of story you want.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I really like that about this episode. But they just doesn't, they don't even start the plot until 20 minutes into the show.
Yeah, well, I think the plot starts when 2 reveals that he knows he reveals the assassination to like that underling number 100 or whatever.
Yeah.
He reveals that he knows 6 knows that he knows, something like that. Mm-hmm. That's really when it starts, and it's like 20 minutes halfway into the show. I mean, I think that comes before the Coshow scene, but I mean the actual mechanics of the plot don't start until after the Coshow scene. Oh, right.
Because that's when he gets his watch and he goes to meet the watchmaker.
Yep.
And he sees the bomb device. But like everything before that is just you've got a little bit of it at the beginning with the girl, but then you've got them following number 6 around. Where they come up, so I want to talk about this scene a little bit later, but because I like it, but again, I also kind of hate it, because they come up with this mechanic of this machine that by plugging in the data of what he does as his daily routine can then predict what he's going to do.
Yeah.
Even if it's something he's never done before.
Yep.
Because it also takes into account the actions of surrounding people. Like this is a pretty advanced technology.
Well, it's kind of the General rebuilt, right? It's like the General 2.0.
It's like the General if the General actually had a functional purpose.
Yes,
and did something constructive.
Well, it's funny because I was reading a book and there's a philosophy. I think it's called like Laplante's demon, something like that, and it's basically just a free will argument that I think this philosopher Laplante, I might be getting this totally wrong. He basically came up with the idea that if you had a being that knew everything, it would be able to predict the future, which is kind of what this computer does.
Yeah.
It's basically an argument against free will. If you know every deterministic action that's leading up to a point, you can predict what the outcome would be.
Okay.
And so that's kind of what this computer is. And it's funny that it's such an advanced idea, but it's printing out just reams of paper that's the assistant.
And it's also like it's taking into account actions of other people, even though the only thing they're plugging into this machine is 6's daily routine.
Yeah.
So he's
a man of routine too. Yeah, every day.
Well, he actually made me feel really lazy because they only follow him from like 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. And between 6 and 10, he walks the perimeter of the village, climbs the bell tower, exercises in his homemade forest gym, water skis.
The forest gym scene. Oh, man.
Goes water skiing, then goes and gets his coffee and newspaper, then plays like a ass-beating game of chess. And then
he crushes a guy in 12 moves or something like that.
Well, it's an old man. And then he sits for a portrait. And he does all of this like before noon. And if I walk the dog before 10:30 as being the first thing I do, then I'm having a good day.
Pretty accomplished. Oh my god, yeah, just I'm laughing just because the gym scene and then the water skiing They call it cooling down.
Yeah,
I don't think they even call it water skiing.
No.
It's like he goes for a cool down, and it's just a shot of him water.
No, it's not even a shot of him. It's like they pulled it from the Port Marion Travel Bureau video.
Someone's iPhone footage just like shaking around. Oh my god, that was awesome.
Yeah.
And he's a world-class gymnast because he does the uneven bars.
Yeah, well, he does one.
Oh, is he? Yeah, it's just the one
Just
bar.
one bar.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, he's, as we've learned at this point, he's amazing at everything. But that's a pretty impressive looking forest gym he's built there.
Yeah. Really wailing that punching bag. He's got a punching bag in the bar that he's doing gymnastics
it's
on.
really well built and suited for that stunt double that they used.
Yes,
Didn't even try to hide.
No, especially on the bar. There's like a thing
Yeah.
where he's done with the routine. He's just hanging there. It's like, that is definitely not McGoohan right there.
Yeah. And that I actually like that stuff. Because but we're talking about the movie. Yeah. So you go through all of that stuff, and
This all ties into the filler thing too. Just to make that one point.
And then after that, you've got 3 minutes of this Coshow thing, which I can only assume is Japanese for wasting time.
Basically.
And I mean, it didn't help that they were playing, like stereotypical Asian music behind it, even though there's nothing. There seems to be nothing Asian about what they're doing.
They bow to each other. That's the extent. When they're done, they bow. And I was joking before, is the past episode that had the Coshow gym. I was like, oh, is there a shot where he's like cleaning up in his lockers? And there are literally lockers in this episode where you actually go hang out. But the Coshow is it Coshow? Is that how you pronounce it? Coshow?
In the show, they say Coshow.
Coshow?
Yeah, but whatever. Who cares? It's fake. Nobody.
It's fake, and it makes no. If some like. For people who want to delve into this series, explain the rules of this game to me, because it makes no sense.
Challenge for fans of the week. Someone explain the rules of Coshow.
It seems you win when you knock the other person into the water.
That seems to be the only rule.
But other than that, you're body slamming each other on trampolines, which neither hurts nor does anything, because the person bounces back up and then they jump up on the wall and they like run along the wall and like tee, and the other guy jumps up and chases after him, and it's like strange
and they're
game.
wearing like the strangest uniforms.
Yeah, they're wearing like a painter's space suit.
Yeah,
like if you were painting the space shuttle, that's what you would wear. And the scene is at least 3 minutes.
Yeah,
it feels like 10 minutes of this.
So like I can understand in like Star Wars Episode 1 where they spend 10 minutes on the pod race, right? Because that was the first big set piece they had built towards, like, oh man, this is going to blow everybody's mind. So cool. Special effects like you've never seen.
It's fast.
Got shit blowing up all over the place. You got a little kid driving a car for some reason that doesn't make any sense narratively.
To be good at it, you have to be vaguely psychic.
Yeah.
Like,
I guess. And so I understand spending a chunk of your movie or a chunk of your thing on something like that.
Yep.
So I could understand spending 3 minutes in the Coshow arena if it was in any way enjoyable or interesting to watch.
Yes.
But it's just so goofy.
And it's so long just to simply set up the fact that they can take his watch.
Yeah.
Like they could have They mentioned earlier in the episode the doors aren't locked for people who run the village. Like they can just come into your house.
Yeah.
So he does sleep. We've seen him sleep in numerous episodes. You can just go in and take his watch while he's sleeping.
Yeah. And it's just, I mean, it's not like it's particularly inventive.
No.
It's not like it's futuristic.
No.
It's not cool looking.
No. It's not dangerous looking.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Those trampolines, you hit your head on one of those metal bars, you're out.
Just running around.
It serves no purpose. Like I would have understood this scene in the last episode, where at least narratively it seems to serve some sort of function because he's fighting
that guy.
the guy.
Whatever. 20.
This episode, he's just fighting some dude.
Yeah, we don't know who that is, right? He's just his like buddy.
Yeah,
just a friend.
I think I'm not sure if it's supposed to be. Remember when the old number 2 comes back and he demands that footage, and then the guy's like, "Oh, no such footage exists," and he's like, "But you don't work in the film library. How would you know?"
That guy is the worst liar of all time.
I think it's supposed to be that guy.
Oh, really?
I could be completely wrong, but for some reason in my mind, I've just connected those.
Should be him. Yeah.
But yeah, it serves no purpose. They literally could have replaced it with number 6 taking a nap.
Yep.
And it would have served the same purpose and saved time.
Why did they need his watch? Just to cause him to go to the watchmaker?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay. I'm trying to resolve why 6 is involved in this. There's no reason
at all. No reason at all.
What was the reason for it?
To discredit me.
Why?
I was the only one he might have believed.
One of the other things I really like is that this we have talked previously about how you've asked, are there episodes that don't focus on 6?
Yeah.
This is about as close as we come, I think.
Yes.
And I like the idea. I like the idea of the plot, as the AV Club review says, the plot uses 6 but is not about 6. I like that idea.
Yep.
I just don't think they pull it off.
No, and it's because they really try to set it up too, because they set up the whole Jammer Society.
Yeah.
So there are other people like 6 in the village. He seems to be exceptionally bad at finding them.
Yeah.
I
think because he doesn't care is the thing. I think that I can let that stuff slide because it's like, yeah, I mean, he wouldn't know about that unless he cared or gave a shit to find out.
Yeah. I mean, it's not I don't think it's a problem, but I think it would, if you've revealed so far into the run that these people exist, I feel like they should be trying to recruit 6 at a certain, like,
yeah, I can see that.
He seems to be the most effective at actually damaging, like, the people who are running the village. But the Jammer thing ties in with just the fact that this isn't necessarily about 6, and it just sets up the whole sort of history or backstory to the show, that there are people in the village who are just like 6, and we just haven't seen them yet.
Right, and I like that idea too. Yeah. You kind of get into a gray area because, as I've said before, I don't know how I feel about extending the world inside the village. I like this. I've said that if you see too many of the mechanisms, then I feel like you lose some of the mystery. Right. And I feel like this is a decent line walk of that, where you have a concept that totally makes sense within the world, but you're not actually seeing, all of the guys going out and having to investigate all of these,
right, yeah.
The village interns going out and having to find out who's telling the truth and stuff like that.
Right.
So it still has the air of mystery to it, and you're not seeing how the sausage is made there.
Yes, yeah. It's true. You're getting dangerously close to a point where this might be necessary. This one's sort of... I think the problem with showing too much of how the village function is, it's like, why are the twos so eager? Yeah. Because even if you do a good job, they're just going to kill you anyway. So why try? Like, if the village, rewarded you, would be one thing, but they've shown that these people know too much. Therefore, when they're done with their job, they have to be removed.
Right.
So being a 2 doesn't really seem to have any sort of positives to it.
Yeah, there's no reason that you would actively want to be a number 2.
Right, yeah.
Even, I think Leo McKern probably has the best attitude. the most accurate attitude, where he's like, yeah, I know that I'm fucked too.
Yep.
This is just my job.
This is just how it goes.
As far as that stuff, the Jammers and the extended mythology, I wanted to read a piece of the AV Club review of this episode, because I think he sums it up pretty well. Funeral is more worthwhile for the extra pieces of mythology it suggests. It works again to create that same sense of persistent world, one that has wheels within wheels which continue to spin, or with or without 6's knowledge of them. Whether this mythology works to the better of the show, though, is open to debate. In general, I'm in favor of a deeper, richer backstory, provided it's delivered in a convincing way, and the backstory we get here is deftly handled, but I can't help thinking that, in general, The Prisoner works best when it doesn't work towards conventional goals. And I tend to agree. I think he's dead on in that. You are walking a line in this episode in terms of pulling down that mythological barrier.
Yep.
And I think they do a pretty good job. I think he goes on later to say that it's good that they only had a short limited run of shows, because if you do more, you're going to have to do more stuff like this.
Yes.
And the more, as we were talking about it with Checkmate as well, the more stuff like this you do, the more you have to open the world, and the more you have to draw in other elements that kind of dilute the product.
Yeah, and it's either dilute or you're going to have to start contradicting yourself, right? Because there's a certain level where the crazy is going to hit crazy, and you're going to be like, "What the hell is the point of this episode? I don't understand."
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think it does I like the mythology building in this show, and I like the way that in this episode. I mean, and the way that it's sort of built onto itself. It's unfortunate it's coupled to something that doesn't really make any sense as a narrative structure.
Today's activities prognosis on number 6. Number 2 requires it.
6:30 a.m. Subject exercises daily with a walk round the village. Daily, subject climbs the bell tower. Reason unknown. Subject eccentric. Certainly watching, waiting, constantly aggressive. Is possible that subject likes the view.
I think my favorite thing about this episode, or I should say the best takeaway, is you get a lot of information about number 6 in this episode. Not specifically told to you, but you get a lot of his routines, and a lot of his routines. But you get, from the way he acts, what his routine, the fact that he has a routine at all.
Yeah.
You learn a lot about where he is in his mindset as far as the quote unquote arc of his character, if there is one.
Yep.
Because as we were saying before, he when the girl shows up at his place in the beginning of the episode, he gives his standard short angry response, but he is also to the point where he is spouting back, kind of rhetoric that he's heard. I can't remember exactly what he says, but I can drop it in here. Whatever.
Yep.
He's spouting back rhetoric that he's heard about procedure in the village. And he's also, he's just fed up with it. He's kind of in that middle ground where he's resigned himself to the fact that he's there, but he still hates it.
Yes. He's, he sort of plays it earlier in this episode as if he, like you were saying, he's heard it all before.
Right.
And he's sort of sarcastic about I'm sure that's what's going to happen.
Right.
Like, cause, I think obviously this episode falls later in the run than anything, or it should be placed later on. But he is, he flips out at the girl, but he's not nearly as, sort of instantly aggressive as he has been.
No, it's more of like an annoyance flip out. It's more like a neighbor yelling at the people who keep partying till 2 a.m.
And she's coming to his house and is like bothering him with stuff.
He's like, would you please stop coming around?
Just don't bring it over here.
I have doors for a reason.
Prettiest female that the show has had on there too.
Yeah, she's very attractive.
I don't know. She just had a funny take on the whole. She was one of the quotes.
Yes, she did not enjoy working with McGoohan.
Although, I guess this is as good a time as any. A lot of the quotes about this afterwards were just people were like, I think McGoohan had a nervous breakdown during this episode.
Yeah.
And which kind of ties in, it's sort of representative of the episode. It sort of feels like a breakdown of like the plot is irrelevant here. Let's just get through this.
Yeah, he so apparently what happened was McGoohan got into a huge argument with the director, and he fired the director and finished the show himself. I don't think anyone really knows how much the director did and how much McGoohan did, but the feeling on the set was, according to the people involved, was very tense. McGoohan was acting very erratic. And according to everyone who worked on this episode, he was very hard to work with. like we said before, number 2 had no idea what was going on. Or I should say Darren Nesbitt had no idea what was going on. And the woman who played the girl, I think it was number 50.
Yeah, something like that.
Was it did not enjoy working with McGoohan at all.
Yeah.
And this is the episode where I think I'd mentioned before, Darren Nesbitt, or the director came to Darren Nesbitt and said, "Do you have any idea what's going on?" He said, "I have no idea what's going on." And he said, "All right." The director said, "Okay, I'm going to go watch. They're going to let me watch the first episode. I'll go check it out.
I'll let you know."
I'll go check it out. I'll come back and I'll let you know what it's about. So he went off and he watched the episode and he came back and Nesbitt said, "Okay, so do you have any idea what it's about?" And the director said, "I have no idea what it's about."
And I am gone.
Yeah.
And the guy he gets in a fist fight with at the end when they're fighting about the little thing, I think he said McGoohan started like strangling him or something.
Oh yeah, he claims that during their fight scene, McGoohan
was not acting.
Yeah, he was not acting. He was actually going to murder this man.
Well, there was actually a the fight scene was kind of funny because it was obviously McGoohan and the guy, but I could kind of believe it because there's a scene where he throws him over the bench, and they kind of roll down the hill, and it was certainly realistic looking, like the way that they just roll, like the way they sort of go over the bench and roll down. It was a it didn't look like it was too choreographed. Sort of. It's really just, I'm going to throw you over this thing and we'll fall down.
It wouldn't surprise me. It's around this point where the people who I don't want to say this in a negative way, implying that these people are wrong in any way, because I don't think anybody really knows how this stuff worked out. But the popular view is that as it went on, McGoohan was becoming more erratic and seizing a lot of control, which made the productions, shakier and more expensive and whatnot.
What episode was this produced?
This is number 8.
This is the 8th produced episode?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. It feels a lot later than that.
Yeah, it does. Well, it's weird because we talk about that too, because I think it feels later for that reason, but it also feels earlier because of how much new shit they drop on you.
Yeah, true.
And it's shortly after this that McGoohan and the script advisor, George Markstein, have their falling out. And I don't know if anyone really knows exactly what happened there, but Markstein left the show. And
McGoohan now has total control.
Yeah, and ever since then, there's kind of been the divided viewpoints on
what show's better.
Yeah, who was right and who was wrong, and who created what, and it's sort of like a much more contentious is Seinfeld better or worse after Larry David leaves?
Yeah, right. Well, there's a clear answer to that, unfortunately.
Is it most people think it's worse after he leaves?
Yes, yeah. I would assume so.
Yeah. But yeah, it's tough to get into that stuff because I don't know how much of it is just he
said, she said, or
yeah, and I mean also as far as him, obviously if he's tough to work with, he's tough to work with, but I still wonder how much of it is because there's no really recurring cast in this show. Right. I feel like it's probably a big turnover episode to episode, right?
Yeah.
And if McGoohan is driving the ship and everybody's getting on at this stop and getting off at the next one, I can understand why there might not be a total cohesion as far as who knows what's going on and what the point of the thing is. And
yeah, that's funny because it's probably one of my like personal weaknesses. At least Amy would probably say that it's the where once you've been doing something, you get tired of explaining it to people, and you're like, because you know something so well, you think other people should know stuff well, so you get kind of annoyed with them when they don't instantly understand this insane sort of idea that you're trying to get across to them.
Right.
Especially in a show like this where so much of it is not particularly grounded. It's kind of a high concept idea to have actors come in and not be told exactly what's going on. Yeah. I'm sure it must be kind of frustrating.
Oh, I can totally believe that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do wonder how much of it was just that, he's driving the ship and he knows what he wants and he's going to get whatever. I mean, he's, as far as I know, this is the first thing that he directed and was like a driving creative force on. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure his bedside manner as a director is not refined.
Yeah, not the best. It's funny because for as much as there's like, you know, theories about everything behind what the show actually means,
yeah,
it's this kind of stuff that I think is like the sort of smoking gun as to when you're rushing to produce a show like this, mm-hmm. you're barely able to get it together. You know, you don't have a lot of free time to be like, now I'm going to insert this incredibly obtuse reference to, you know, the Torah or something, and like people will pick it out for it. I was actually thinking, this episode in particular made me think. I think this show kind of fits in with the band Tool. I was like, okay. I was like strongly reminded. It's like, there's people who like Tool, and then there's people who like really like Tool.
Right.
And there's a lot of theory about Tool songs.
Oh, yeah.
And I like Tool, but when I take a break and I don't listen to them for a while, and then I come back, mm-hmm. it all seems a little bit silly, almost. Like it hits you. You're like, I don't know why I was thinking that.
Yeah.
You know, sort of like it's that kind of a thing.
Yeah. Well, I think it's I may have said this before, but I feel like with something like this, where it's so open-ended, and
there's an art in vagueness, which is kind of a nice thing to have in a show.
Yeah, and I think when you have fans of something like this that has so much vagueness and so much open-endedness to it, and you don't get those answers, you're going to dig and try and find as many of those answers as you can. Right. So with something like this, with this show in particular, at the end of it, if it leaves you with a lot of questions, it's like, why was that so weird? Why do these episodes seem like they're out of order? Right. You go digging and you find out, oh, well, they were shot in a different order. Oh, McGoohan didn't really have his shit together. It's people are claiming, et cetera, et cetera. Oh, it must not be that he didn't know what he was doing. And, you know, this guy claims that he knew what he was doing, and so you kind of carve out your own
storyline as to why these things are these ways.
Yeah, and it's a really fascinating thing. It's like what you and I were talking about the other day with these different types of cultural critics.
Yep.
That have kind of popped up, and one of them that I don't like.
Just to clarify for people, there was an article that was we were reading about he identifies 4 different sort of bad criticism. Right. Yeah, and I'll put a link to it in the show notes. Yeah. But it's a good read.
Yep. And one of the groups that they talk about are these theorists who are obsessed with creating crazy intricate theories to explain things in shows that aren't explained. And then,
like, we always bring it up. Lost would be the prime example.
Lost and Mad Men is one of them, because there was this like running theme because Don Draper's wife was wearing a shirt that Sharon Tate wore in a magazine ad one time.
Yeah.
Everyone was like, "Oh, well, she's going to be killed because she's wearing a Sharon Tate," and then like a jumping off point.
Yeah.
And then when that doesn't happen, or like my favorite one is True Detective. Because True Detective had all of this weird fiction stuff woven into it, and as soon as they drop that pebble into the pond, everyone's like, "Oh shit! There's no way this show can end other than
the Golden God or whatever."
Yeah, other than Cthulhu coming up out of the ground, and it's all building towards a massive like Lovecraftian alien. It's like, no, it's not. Right. And when that doesn't happen, people dismiss it outright. It's like, well, no, it sucks because it's like I hate that. I can't stand it. It's like because it doesn't conform to the crazy idea that you had about what should or shouldn't happen doesn't mean that it's any less of a work. Yeah, it doesn't mean that it's bad.
Yep. That's always that's why resolutions are always bad, because shows rarely end the way that you're expecting it to go.
Yep.
And you've been creating this thing in your head where you're like, well, I'd assume this is going to happen. This must be the only way that's going to happen.
Right.
And it doesn't happen, and then you're like, they really missed the mark there. They should have gone with my idea like that.
Yeah.
That was better.
Yeah, it's so tough too, because it's because what you have in your head is clearly not what the writers have in their head. I mean, they're interpreting these characters they're writing in a way that's completely different from the way that you're interpreting it.
Yep.
I mean, like Breaking Bad. I think the ending of Breaking Bad was solid.
See, I don't like the ending of Breaking Bad.
I mean, it was fine. I mean, I don't think it was anything absolutely astounding, but I thought it was fine.
Yep.
A good example, I think, is The Wire. In that, I personally don't think the last season of The Wire should have happened.
Mm-hmm.
I think the way they ended the 4th season tied everything up perfectly, and then the 5th season just seems like a weird freak out.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're going way off topic. But watch The Wire, everybody. It's a really good show.
Have you heard this show, The Wire? HBO Now. You can get it for $15 a month on your Apple devices.
After we finish our Deadwood podcast, we'll be doing a Wire podcast, and not Breaking Bad, though, because everybody seems to have a Breaking Bad podcast. Anyway, so getting back to what are we talking about? Deadwood? Is that the show?
Yeah, we're talking about when that guy's eye fell out.
So yeah, the production order of this is interesting, because at this point, as we said before we went way off topic, people are claiming McGoohan's getting more erratic and losing control, and et cetera, et cetera. But episodes that were produced after this include A, B, and C, The General, and Many Happy Returns. And Many Happy Returns might be the most very specifically well executed episode they do. That being the one where he
that's the silence one where he gets away.
Yes, yeah.
Many Happy Returns is the best episode of the show.
Yeah, so far I think it's on just a general execution level. I would agree. Yeah. But yeah, it's so. I mean, if he was losing control, I mean, Hammer into Anvil also after this point. So if he's losing control, it's not showing.
Yeah. Maybe he's just had a bad week.
Yeah, that's very possible. I mean, and again, he's notoriously has a certain temperament.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that if you're only working with him for 5 days, if you are not used to that.
Yep.
Again, I don't want to be a total apologist, because I'm sure the truth is somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
As it always is.
Yep.
But so we were talking about production order and stuff, and we touched on it a little bit. But where do you think this should fall? If you were to, do you like the placement, or do you think it should go earlier or later?
I think it's good where it is. It could go later, but I don't know the later episodes. But it's fine where it is, and I could see it being a later episode if some of the episodes that come later make sense going earlier. I can see that shuffling happening.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's definitely on the later end. I think, well, let me rephrase that. I think if you're looking at 6 specifically, it goes on the later end, because you've got him in this sort of transitional period in the way that he's approaching and relating to the village.
Yeah. What was the episode we considered a turning point? Was it Hammer? Is Hammer? I'd have to look at the things. Is Hammer the first episode where he's sort of resigned? Well, no, Chimes is.
Yeah, Chimes.
But Chimes is way too early.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's one of those, I think, is the turning points, and you could kind of have like a BC AD dividing line.
Yeah.
Like you could have that sort of like, this is the episode where even if you bicker about what the specific order is, this belongs after.
Yes.
And this goes before.
Yeah. Even at the end of the episode, the difference in this episode from the previous episodes before this quote unquote character turn, he doesn't try to escape.
Yeah.
He's got the bomb trigger and he gives it to number 2. Why doesn't he just escape himself?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, as we learn at the end, because the helicopter turns back around, it's not going to happen. But he doesn't even try.
Yeah. Why doesn't he just leave with this too?
Yeah, he's got. I mean, his mindset is that he knows he's not going to get out anymore.
Right.
And so he doesn't even bother trying. And so I think you could probably group together this with a couple other episodes where it's just sort of like this, maybe the ones where he doesn't try to escape, where it's just like this pocket where this is where his attitude kind of dips into, all right, well, this is my life now, kind of thing.
Yes.
But he's not giving in. He's still very very individualist. And one of the things I love about his routine they go through is what you can kind of gather from what he's doing. Because he's not actively trying to escape, but every day the first thing he does is he walks the grounds of the village.
Yeah, walks
looking for...
tapping the fence.
Basically, tapping the fence. Goes up into the watchtower just to see what's going on, to survey, he's...
Water skis to get a cardio workout.
Yeah, I mean, well, sometimes a guy just needs to have fun, all right?
I was thinking... the village seems like a kind of a nice little vacation spot. It's a good argument that the village makes of like, you've got everything you want here. Why do you need to leave?
Yeah, I mean, well, as I mentioned before we started, this weekend is actually Port Maricon. The weekend we're taping this.
Port Maricon. Sunday.
Do you like the prisoner?
Grave robber this Sunday at Port Maricon.
Outdoor human chess game where you are the king. Port Maricon.
Checkmate. Interesting. That's this weekend, huh?
Yeah. Or, well, as this goes up, it will have been this past weekend.
Oh, okay.
But, it's the annual prisoner convention that they do at Port Marion.
Not water skiing weather in Britain yet, I don't think.
It is human chess weather, though.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, so he's constantly tapping the fence, as you were saying, and...
Still trying.
Yeah, he's still, testing the boundaries and making sure that everything, that there's no holes in anything, or looking for holes, I should say. But yeah, he's got this changed attitude where he's not actively trying to escape, but he's still on his guard and he's still staying true to his own beliefs and his own personality.
Yep.
He's just doing it within the system, basically. Which is really interesting. I like that characterization a lot.
It's better than the episodes where he tries to escape.
Yeah, because the episodes, well, most of them anyway, because Chimes of Big Ben is like a perfect blend of the two, because his reaction is very much like, I've been here for a while, this is how it works, man, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
But then it's like that he finds the hole in the fence, basically.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Which I really like that.
You still confident of your cover? Any sign of penetration?
No, they still think of me as just another prisoner.
Getting along with your subject all right?
Oh, we're kindred spirits. Comrades. There'll be no trouble from him.
The other thing I really like is you get a glimpse into how tangled the web the village weaves is.
Yes.
Because even before they get into the plot proper, you have that scene with 2 and number 100 where number 100 is talking about how he's been working over his guy that he's looking at.
Yeah.
Which it turns out to be the watchmaker, so all that stuff connects. But,
yep.
which I guess when you look at it that way, the plot proper starting so late isn't structurally a bad thing. It's just that they waste their time beforehand. I think that's the best way to sum it up.
Yeah, and it's frustrating when a episode does not hit when it doesn't draw you in immediately.
Yeah,
it's a frustrating experience to be like, what the fuck is going on? Like someone do something that explains what's happening. Otherwise, you just feel like you're just meandering with nothing being accomplished.
Yeah. But I like seeing a bit of a peek behind the curtain where you see how tangled everything is, and I like the idea that the village constantly has other things going on. It's weird because like generally in television shows or in film in general, the rule is show don't tell, but I actually like that they just kind of tell you about this stuff. I think it goes into what we were talking about before with not seeing too much of the mechanics. I like the idea that there's all these other plots being hatched by the village on other prisoners.
Yep.
I like the idea that these jammers exist and are constantly but I don't necessarily need to see them do it. Just the idea that they're there builds extends the world enough for me.
Yeah.
I might be alone in that, but
seeing them do it would only create the possibility that it sucks. You know what I mean? Like, it's cooler to bring up an idea than just be like, if you went to like a meeting of the Jammers and you're like, what the hell is this? Like, because that flies in the face of the village.
Dude, you going to the Jammers meeting tonight?
The village can see everything.
Yeah.
So.
That's what I wanted to bring up. Another reason why this doesn't it doesn't make sense is in the watchmaker's
his shop.
Yeah, his shop. Sorry. They have this big argument about like the plot.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, why are there no cameras in this shop? Like theoretically, as soon as I think Six even says it in the first scene. He's like, why are you telling me? The fact that you're saying it out loud means everybody knows.
And he has that other scene. He's talking to the girl, and he's like, "There are cameras everywhere," and he sort of leads her to another place.
Yeah,
the cameras. The cameras in this show are kind of the Star Trek thing of like, it's powerful when you need it, it's there, and when you don't need it, it just doesn't exist.
Yeah, but I mean, like the first scene, I understand because they're setting up the thing about the Jammers and whatnot, and why they wouldn't believe the girl. But the scene in the clockmaker's shop
has an impact.
Yeah, whatever they're talking about seems to be very plot based, to a point where the village should get involved.
Yep. They choose not to.
Yeah,
they're too busy with their Sith-like machinations about only one can exist. It's interesting to see where Lucas got that from there.
The other thing that I forgot that I really liked is that plaque, the appreciation statue at the end, which it's just a little detail where at the appreciation.
You mean his medallion?
No, they're unveiling a statue at the end as well, an Appreciation Day statue, and they pull this cloth off this big thing, and it's just a little plaque that says appreciation on it.
Just a reminder, just to let you know.
So sorry to go back to placement. One of the things that makes me feel like you could place this earlier if you wanted to, and I think this is just a writing thing, is this episode. I don't know if you could place it earlier, but it confused me when I found out that it was produced later. Yep. Because they drop so much new stuff on you in this that by this point feels like everything should be pinned down.
Yes.
Like this idea that if this is what they're saying, this idea that there is a real number 2, but he's been on vacation and all these other guys are just interim number 2s.
Yeah.
Like I
understand what you're saying. Not that it's important, but this one has the plot point where there have been previous number 2s.
Yeah.
So you can't have it too early.
Yeah.
Not that you can just eliminate that section and easily rewrite it, but it's shown that there have been at least 3 previous number 2s.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing that I was trying to figure out too. So is that video package that number 2 shows number 6, where it's that badly spliced together?
You mean the one where the blonde number 2 is like sitting with his glasses on, and he takes them off and stands up and says, "Hello, number 2," and he goes, "Hi," and then he's sitting back down with his glasses on, and he goes,
and the clock behind him keeps jumping around the time, like in The Simpsons. And well, every time 6 comes in to tell number 2 about this plot, he stands in the exact same place, the same lighting, the same face, and the same hunched over manner.
And the 2s are very similar, that they always spin their chair around to talk to him. Not a single one is not sitting in their chair.
So are the 2s in that video package, are they supposed to be 2s that would have been in the village off screen, so to speak, so like between episodes? Or is
we've seen them before, haven't we?
Nope. No, those two 2s have not been in the show.
Really?
Yeah. The first guy looks kind of like Leo McKern, but it's not him.
Oh,
unless I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure those 2.
I was curious about the woman. I didn't recognize the woman, but I thought the guy. I'd have to go back.
So.
Okay,
I could be completely wrong, but I'm pretty sure we haven't seen those guys.
Oh, because I was amazed. I was like, wow, they really thought that out, or at least they just called this actor back to do one sentence of dialogue.
I don't think so.
Oh, okay, interesting.
But yeah, I don't know if we're supposed to assume that those are number 2s who have been there but we just haven't seen them because they've been there between episodes.
Yeah, I'd assume that would be the case.
Or if that's just a package that they put together to show the show Old Man number 2 who wouldn't know. You know what I mean? So like,
yeah, no,
did he just grab 2 people to shoot this stuff and then say these guys were number 2 while you were gone?
Yeah, you know what I mean? 6 doesn't react to it either way.
Yeah,
6 sort of reacts to it, I'd assume, as if he had known those number 2s.
Yeah. That we learn that there is a father and daughter team in the village, which is really interesting because
the Watchmakers.
Yeah, it's the Watchmaker and number 50, the girl who shows up at the beginning. It's father and daughter, and that's not something they've ever explored in the show. And I mean, I feel like that seems to be another reason why I would say it feels like it's an earlier written episode, because I feel like that is something that would have been kind of hammered out of the concept. Like that seems like a decision made by someone who's doesn't fully know exactly how everything works.
Right, yeah.
But, it's an interesting concept because, I mean, if 6 doesn't even address it.
No. Was she born in the village? Was she brought in
I don't
separate?
know.
Are they a spy family?
He doesn't even ask.
Yeah.
I mean, he's asked literally like everybody else he's come in contact with except the most interesting 2 people he's come in contact with. I mean, it would be, that's one of the things that I always found interesting would be to explore is someone who was born in the village.
Yeah.
Like, when we were talking about Dance of the Dead, I think I had a theory that, the girl who is his observer could have been born in the village because of the way that she is so, on the side of the government. You know, she's got that grown up under glorious Stalin kind of feel, you know?
She's a true believer.
Right. So, it's a shame they didn't get into that a little bit, or at least talk about it, because I don't think they ever touch on that again.
No.
That concept, the jammers thing, it's tough to imagine going so long in the village without
stumbling into them.
Yeah, but again, I guess, as I said before, the reason he doesn't know about them is because he doesn't give a shit, and there's no reason he would.
Yeah.
So, I think some of those things could imply that maybe it at least it feels like it's an earlier written one, because of all that. It seemed they're playing with stuff that should be pinned down by episode 8.
Yeah.
The whole idea that number 2 retires at all. But again, as I've said before, all of this stuff I feel like you can give a pass to a certain extent, because they're telling a certain story that they want to tell inside this world where you can pretty much do whatever you want. There's no real rules. But at the same time, I think you could have done a political thriller type thing inside the machinations of the village we're used to, and it would have been equally as good.
Yeah.
Take it.
What for?
It's your passport. No one will question its authority. The helicopter's waiting.
They'll get me eventually.
Fly now, pay later.
They'll find me, wherever I am.
As long as it's not here. Take it and go.
Yeah, I think the biggest change I would make is, if I had to make a change, the biggest change I would make is to have 6 involved in the plot more organically. Like have him stumble upon it himself, kind of thing, instead of being actively drawn into
right.
It
Yeah. No, that's the key. If 6 is involved in the genesis of everything that goes on, and then the young 2 is reacting to that, it just makes more narrative sense than the situation, especially the way that 2 is portrayed.
Mm-hmm.
He should be adaptable and sort of, willing to play things as they come into him.
Yeah. I would even say it would be kind of cool if they had done it where 6, kind of keep the same idea. So 6 finds out about the assassination plot by himself.
Right.
But only later do you realize that 2 was kind of dropping clues for him to get. So it's not as clearly jamming him into it. It's sort of like organically getting him involved.
Yep.
But then you can have another twist later where 6 actually turn. So I think there's a better way they could do it. And
right. Even if you slowly creep it in, it feels more natural. Even if it doesn't make as much sense.
Yeah.
That as opposed to just sort of like, here's the horn. Everyone just start getting involved.
Yeah. Trivia, I think we pretty much covered the trivia earlier, and so go back and listen to that again. How would you rate this? How would you rate this plan?
It's a 6, except for involving 6, which brings it down.
Well, I mean, technically it doesn't work because they don't kill the guy.
Right. So his plan would have, but he doesn't kill the guy just because of his dumb decision to involve 6. So I think I'm going to give this a 5.
Okay.
Because it's a good plot.
Mm-hmm.
It makes a lot of sense, except for that one problem of we have a main character that needs to be involved here.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I would believe that. Yeah. I would go with that as well. Because I mean, I think the big takeaway from this episode is that it's a good idea. The plot is solid. It's hung up on having to shoehorn 6 into it in a way that doesn't make sense.
Yep. But, and a lot of filler to fill in the blank spaces.
Yeah. And it's disappointing because, I mean, I actually was into it once the plot started picking up. Because I was like, oh shit, they're doing they're actually going for like a political spy thriller type thing.
Right, yeah.
Assassination thriller. I was totally into that.
Yep.
But at that point, it's like you've started this at minute 22.
Yeah.
And you've got 20 minutes left to do this like complex, thing.
You get the dominoes falling.
Yeah.
This was one of the ones I appreciate. I liked it much more the second time. Even though I'm not crazy about it overall in terms of an episode.
Yeah.
The first time I thought it was obnoxious.
Yeah.
It got better the second. Once you realize what the plot is, it all comes down to that first 20 minutes. The first time watching it, it's just like, what is happening? Yeah. Like someone do something. And when you know what's coming the second time, it makes it pop a little bit more.
You must forgive an old man for talking so long, but this is a moment of great emotion for me.
I think that's about it. Final thoughts?
Just a quick summary. Yeah, what it was, just a good idea let down by a little bit of the execution and a lot of filler.
Yeah.
And not a great episode, but serviceable, I'd guess. It's not the worst. It's not horrible to the point of avoiding, but it's certainly not one of the top tier.
Yeah, I think the best thing in this episode is 6 himself. Like if you're looking for like a good reason to watch it, well, I would say 6 and 2. 6 is really good.
Yeah, the best 2. I guess that would be my. This has been my favorite 2.
With his blonde hair and his weird purple lip.
His purple.
He's really good, and 6 is really good, especially at the beginning. The way that he's got that weird cadence that he puts on things when he's like annoyed, which is awesome. And
so snotty.
It's got an interesting plot that just doesn't, they didn't really live up to its full potential. Did you feel like it was a letdown when they brought the old man number 2 in? Because I felt like the blonde Darren Nesbitt is really good, and he's got such a specific like character look to him.
Yeah.
That when the real quote unquote the old man number 2 comes in, he was just like some dude.
Yeah.
Unless we are both ignorant of British television, and that guy is.
I know he's like a Tom Cruise,
big name or something.
No, I mean it's a little letdown, and he's such a like weak number 2 in comparison to Nesbitt's.
Yeah,
like he's like, well, I don't want to die. Like it's just like,
I just want to ride my motorcycle.
Who is this guy? Who is this guy? But he's I don't know if I was let down as much as like, I wish he wasn't around.
He's got kind of that he's come back and the kids have had a party that they just cleaned up kind of vibe. He's like, what's going on here? I was gone for 2 months.
Opening a cabinet door and it's just like broken, obviously, and it's like, why is this?
This expensive vase looks like it's been pieced together with glue.
Let me see the security cam footage from the Friday night. There is no security cam. Interesting.
I said no parties while I was gone, number 2.
Or number 2.
Anyway, so yeah, that's pretty much it. Do you have anything you'd like to plug?
Sure. I'm in the middle of a Star Trek podcast. You guys can go to thepenskypodcast.com. All Star Trek Next Generation episodes that we're running through, and YouTube. You can just search for The Pensky File, and I'm up there too.
Cool. And as I say, pretty much every episode, I am by no means a expert on this. So if you have anything you'd like to correct me on, or anything you would like to, any trivia or anything that you'd like to impart on us,
come up with the rules for Coshow.
Yeah, come up with the rules Coshow.
And explain why 6 needed to be involved in this plot.
Yes.
If you can come up with a decent explanation as for that maybe you've saved the episode.
That is your homework for the week.
Yeah.
And you can send your answers to theprisonerpodcast@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter @prisonerpodcast. And thank you guys for listening. We will be back next week with a change of mind. Well, there you go. There was It's Your Funeral. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give us a rating on iTunes or a review on iTunes, and tell your friends, because I'm sure they'd like to know all about this obscure show that you love so very, very much. So, thank you again, and I'll see you next week.